There you go.
You could turn the modulation wheel and make feedback too. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, the full synth arrangement and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a couple of live Dream Theater concerts with excellent use of the guitar.
Actually, yeah, I was going
Bah.
to say, my roommate has seen Dream Theater
With
like
the
3
bah.
times, and he said and he's seen a bunch of other bands,
The
and the
bang.
guitar solo was the best thing he'd ever seen in any live
A
performance.
dang.
So maybe you should really make it a
Diggy.
comeback thing, man.
Yeah, Jordan
Diggy.
Rudess, that guy really
Diggy.
kills it on the guitar, more so than on the piano even. So
Said the
that's something to
boogie.
look into if you're interested in shredding
Said.
the guitar.
Well, I think the reason that it makes it more
Up.
interesting is because you can
Jump
actually
the
see
boogie.
the keys. You know, they're facing you instead of just
Bah.
seeing a giant piano or the
With
backside
the
of a
bah.
keyboard. So you can actually see
The bang.
You know.
Yeah, sometimes people don't realize
A
the
dang.
proficiency needed to play things well, and
Diggy.
you know, you just see like a
Diggy.
keyboardist's head bobbing, and you hear what's
Diggy.
going on, and like, oh, he's really jamming it. But yeah, now watch my fingers
Said the
running all
boogie.
over the place.
Yeah, 9-finger independence and stuff like
Said.
that.
Yeah, the independence
jump.
needed for
The boogie.
keyboard is beyond me. That's for sure. It's amazing.
Bah.
And then playing and singing. You do that very well.
With the
Dan.
bah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed
The
with your guitar work
bang.
as well.
Yeah, that's my third instrument. I picked
A
up
dang.
guitar and started trying to practice seriously maybe like 6 years ago.
Diggy.
So thanks.
Yeah, I was watching like the different ways you were
Diggy.
picking and stuff like that, get different tones and stuff, and
Diggy.
sometimes you like
Said the
get a wash
boogie.
of the really high strings
Said.
while you're chugging out the riff, and
Up.
it was really nice.
Jump.
Yeah, depending on where you
The
pick on
boogie.
the bridge, you either end up with more tone
Bah.
or more percussion. The farther on the
With
bridge
the
you are,
bah.
the more trebly it's going to sound. The more on all the way
The
towards
bang.
the actual bridge,
dang.
you're going to have a percussive sound and
Diggy.
way less actual tone.
Yeah.
Diggy.
So the last time we did a show together,
Diggy.
or actually the last time I saw you was after
Said the
that, too.
boogie.
You had this
Said.
fabulous refurbished
Up.
Rhodes.
Jump the
Yes,
boogie.
I had been trying to track one down there.
Bah.
Obviously become a hot
With the bah.
commodity. And I was able to
The
find
bang.
one.
A dang.
The guy had it up for sale.
Diggy.
And I called him that night, and I'm like,
Diggy.
he's like, yeah, you can come look at it tomorrow. I'm like,
Said
I'm
the
gonna- Can
boogie.
I come there right now?
Said.
So yeah, I got it, refurbished it.
Up, jump, the
designed it,
boogie.
Had some legs manufactured.
I was going to say, those legs,
Bah.
I was going to go out of my way to say
With
that
the
legs
bah.
on your Rhodes are so cool looking. When we
The
played
bang.
show with you a year ago or whatever it was,
A dang.
I just remember watching that, and I was like,
Diggy.
oh, that's so perfect. For
Diggy.
that. You know, they look vintage,
Diggy.
but they're definitely very sturdy.
Said
Yeah,
the
I know
boogie.
The legs that had come on the roads were
Said
very
up,
chintzy and
jump
and
the boogie.
snapped off, from what I heard. So I didn't want to mess around.
Yeah, a lot of people
My name
had damage done to their Rhodes because the legs snapped
Is
off.
Kid.
Yep. So I even when
Kid
Dave
Rock.
Goldstein, my bass player, got married, I brought my Rhodes, and there was kind of a free
My
form
name
jam, and there were some fellows that had,
is
had
Kid.
quite a bit to drink that were playing it, and I felt
Kid
pretty comfortable that
Rock.
they're gonna knock it over.
So you know what?
My
Since
name
we're talking about the Rhodes, do you mind if we play a song
is
that
Kid.
features the Rhodes on? Honestly, by the titles, I'm not
Kid
remembering. I know
Rock.
which one in my head
Bump
it
in the
is.
Road.
Bump in the Road. Okay,
Oh.
yeah, let's definitely work on that.
In
Rowan,
praise
really quick,
of
just to
limestone.
let you guys know, Casio Interstate Music in New Berlin has had a Rhodes piano there.
If
for
it
like
formed
months.
the one
It's
landscape
like
that we,
$1,100
the
or something
inconstant
like
ones,
that. I've got pictures
are
on my phone of it,
consistently
if you
homesick
guys wanna
for.
see
If I
it,
had
but-
$1,100, I'd
This
buy
is
it.
chiefly
Yeah.
because it dissolves in water.
Jacob?
You're talking to a bunch of musicians
Mark
here.
these
dude.
rounded slopes
Wait,
with
Jacob,
their
you mean I can't
serpents.
borrow $1,100 from you?
Oh, I have it in my purse.
Fragrance
so I'll
of
get it.
Awesome.
time, and beneath
$1.11,
a secret
I've
system
got
of
that.
caves
Ah, ba-dum-bum.
and conduits
So we're gonna
Hear
listen
the
to
springs
song,
that spurt
featuring the
out
Rhodes,
everywhere
refurbished Rhodes
with
called
a
Bump in the
chuckle,
Road by Repetition
each
Lover.
filling a private pool for its fish and carving its own little ravine whose cliffs entertain the butterfly and the lizard. Imagine this region of short distances and definite places. What could be more like Mother on a fitter or a fitter background? Allow me to mark this place. So how are you? How are you doing, guys? I don't have anything prepared. I'm marking my place in that piece I was reading by W.H. Auden, because I might come back to it, but I also might not. God, it's so hot. Like, I feel like a squid, just like a nervous, like a squid gulping Dasani to save its, I don't know. Have you been watching the Olympics? How are they doing? How do you feel when you watch the Olympics? Do you think Michael Phelps is an articulate young man? Have you heard about this thing, Olympian sex? It sounds great, and I know this might make you uncomfortable, but I think some vanishing quota at the edge, the collectively fulminating fantasy that is Olympic sex could, I think, really drive a campaign to help us sort of with the parameters of this concisely, brutally, concisely, which is what is sort of the new style of making war for our country very brutally and concisely. I'm going to try to concentrate on Olympian sex, and I know you guys wanted to talk about brutally concise war, but that's just so, I mean, it is sort of, it relies heavily on the power of suggestion, and I find that I've been so desensitized just streaming hours of Olympian sex and just like sitting there in a kiddie pool of my own flop sex. I mean, okay, we'll stay with flop sex. I meant to say flop sweat, but just scrolling down absent-mindedly through endless hours of Olympian sex, and I guess that's the reason I'm sharing this with you guys, is because you invited me here tonight and you told me there would be potato salad, and there is no potato salad, and I really do find that a little disconcerting. I don't like being promised potato salad and not being given potato salad. I just think you should have kept your word on that. I mean, it's okay if you don't know how to make potato salad. I mean, you can buy it from the store. I mean, it's very easy to get, and I mean, you know, if you want to make it, you might be like a purist, or you only use locally sourced ingredients. It's very easy to just look up a recipe online, you know, just look up a recipe online. So I would like you guys, whoever's listening, to just drop by sometime, and I mean, you could drop by right now if you wanted to, but just really anytime here in the window display, and give me some tips about online dating, because I'm kind of new to the game, and I grant you that my expectations are probably very heavily affected by hours of streaming and scrolling through Olympian sex videos produced at the Olympian Village of combinations of 2 triathletes and 3 swimmers and 7 basketball players and 6 badminton players, or 1 long-distance runner and 5 boxers and the entire German swim team and 1 best boy from North Korea. Best boy being the event of the closely related to being a gaff of a boom mic operator on film set, or just say a crap load of lasagna and the entire infield of the American baseball team just getting familiar with that lasagna, just getting familiar. You get familiar and then you take a shower. I hope the like gaps and silences don't like sound or are interpreted though I can't
guess I've been
control,
lucky in that
though
respect.
they might
Yeah, then you'd have
seem
to
to be
get some crystal
punchlines, but
cream to
what I'm
put
actually
on your
thinking
finger.
is I hope don't dehydrate it because I'm just
Let's not go
flop
there.
sweating
Just,
it up.
my advice is just
I'm
be
like
careful.
Let's
Yeah.
keep
Be
our,
more
our
careful.
I'm
fingers
like
crossed.
sweating
Yes.
more than the mixing
I
engineer.
have to find someone to lift the
On
curse.
Prince's
Yeah,
album
right.
1999,
So, will you play some more for
which
us?
I don't have
Sure.
to tell you
Play
is
some
a
more,
hot one. So I mean,
called
we
Tired and Wired.
certainly have some time to kill before I have to leave the studio and Olympian sex really kicks in. I would like to address something, which is that I realize that a sign of maturity is often that you feel particularly sad about particular things, and at other times you find yourself particularly wowed by Pretty Woman, and still other times find yourself particularly saddened by a particularly stricken world, and you begin to voice your opinion in a particularly declamatory sort of way that is not necessarily psychological. Lately, many in the Soviet avant-garde, no, scratch that. It's just a silhouette. I decided I was going to read from the collected writings of Joe Brainerd. This is a Washington, D.C. Journal, 1972. Thursday, October 12th. Ron just called to say that the trip to Washington is on. Ron and Pat and Wayne Paget. In a borrowed Mercedes. Tomorrow night after dinner we leave. I remember reading somewhere that Washington has a higher crime rate than New York City. I really must find out what DC, as in Washington DC, means. My only vision of DC is lots of white marble. Friday, October 13th. Got up early, breakfast, went to bank, took raincoat to be cleaned, picked up laundry, bought small containers of shaving cream and toothpaste. One word or two. Postage stamps for postcards. And I got a haircut. One word or two. So now I'm ready to go. I hope my bad toenail, one word or two, I couldn't care less actually, won't give me trouble. Friday the 13th. Saturday, August 14th. We drove straight down the New Jersey Turnpike to 95 and straight down 95 to Washington. Lots of trouble finding a motel, but we did. A quality inn. A rip-off, as Pat said, but comfortable. Color TV. Comfortable, that is, except that we were right next to a series of train tracks, but I was so tired I could have slept through anything, and did. Driving around Washington 11 or so last night. A bit spooky. Lots of very impressive, official-looking buildings. No street trash, and few people, except a few Negro pedestrians, and a few white cops. Actually, quite a few cops. And I was right about the white marble. Tons of it. All lit up with floodlights. Some with a very slight pink tint. Right now, I am sitting on the bed of our motel room, having just returned from breakfast, waiting for Pat and Ron and Wayne to get ready. This morning, zipping up my left boot. The zipper, broke. Ron says we are ready to go. The National Gallery. At the National Gallery now, having a cup of coffee in the cafeteria. having zipped through the Italian, Venetian, Spanish, Flemish, and German sections. We are going to split up now for closer examinations. Me, I plan to eyeball in on Titian, Goya, Rubens, and Van Dyck. Van Dyck, I don't know. Sitting in a sort of indoor garden with a fountain now. Can't see any more paintings today. As museums often do to me, I am reminded of my lack of patience as a painter, my lack of focus, and perhaps even my lack of dedication. Although I work all the time, do I really work that hard? What I mean is that I feel I'm more of an artist than a painter, which is okay, except that secretly I want to be a painter. And although
Nobody goes.
I feel the choice is mine to make
Trips. What are you talking about?
whenever I feel like making it, I may be kidding myself.
I believe you.
Not that I believe in too late, no. But I do believe
that
very
song is
much
also
in
on the
now.
album?
Yes, it is.
Which is to say that if you're doing it now, you're not doing
I like
it.
your chord progressions because
Uh,
they're never what
I think I am
used to
beginning to believe
expecting
more
to
and more in
hear.
making definite
They're
decisions.
you always throw something like an
At the
extra
Corcoran
chord
Gallery,
in,
I was
or you
supposed to
throw a
have
passing
15
chord.
small works
You're really
up,
good at like the
but we
the
couldn't
voice
find
leading
them.
of the chords where
And I
you
didn't
pass
feel
from
like
one chord
asking
to the
about them.
next.
I just thought it would be fun to
It's a
bump into them.
progression. It's not just
But
I'm
like I
playing
said,
the
no
one, now I'm
dice.
playing the 5, now I'm
Then
playing the 1
lunch,
again, and
a
guess
fish
what?
sandwich
I'll play
at
the
the
4 in a
drugstore.
minute.
At a drugstore.
And I mean,
Then a drive around
the
Georgetown.
rhythmic
Pretty.
aspect of it was pretty straightforward.
And a nice
but
relief
it
from
had- it was
downtown.
really hard to count out the time
Cold.
signature. I mean,
And I don't
it sounded
mean
like
the
most
weather.
of that was in 6/8 to me.
The weather,
but
by the
it
way,
was-
is being fantastic.
but
cool
yeah,
and
it's-
crisp
it
and
was
very
really
clear.
Interesting, the syncopation you were choosing. to use
Indian
on the guitar
summer,
in
I
the different
believe, is what
parts
you would
because
call
was
it.
Really highlighting a different part. Of
Really
the song.
nice.
I think it's the
And you can see how
accents
much,
where he
and you can
places
see
the
so much
accents
sky
that
here.
gives you a sense that it's an odd
In
time
Georgetown, we
signature
had
when it's
ice
really
cream
not.
cones. And I got some new
the
shoes.
syncopation really kept the groove of it. Really.
Now we are at the Roger Smith Hotel
I just make
in the
Chuck-
downtown area, where we have a suite of two
Well,
nice
let's
rooms.
take a little break.
Not
We're
so
gonna listen to some more
motel-y
music
as
if
last
you're willing
night.
to play it, but we're
And
doing a
cheaper.
little quiz here. So
Ordered 2
this is
Bloody
our
Marys for Patty and me
famous
half an hour ago.
quiz. Well,
still no
for
Bloody Marys.
fame.
We'll try again. The operator says that everything is
Spencer,
very
you've been
messed up
practicing. I
down
am
here,
so impressed.
but she'll
It's a
try
long
again.
Car ride to Canada.
Guess I'll write
And
some
back.
postcards now.
So,
And then
this
soon,
week, you are going
after
to
dinner,
select
Throughout
the
this entire
song
day,
that the artist
my
who
toenail
made
has
the
been
song
killing me.
famous did actually write.
Dinner
Sometimes
at a
we
nearby
flip-flop it.
steakhouse
This
where we
is-
got a
we're gonna
bit
do it
drunk.
This week, where you're going to name
Well,
the
hi.
pair. I'll give you a song. And
Then
the
we
person
went
who
for a
made it
short
famous.
walk where,
You're going to tell me which
lying on
of
top
these
of a trash
pairs the
container,
person named
I found a
actually
sack
did
of
write
gay
the song.
porn magazines.
So here are.
I keep getting very sweet vibrations from Ron of an I'm trying harder
yeah.
nature,
So here
which I
they are.
choose to take
Here
as a
they are.
personal compliment.
It
I say
did.
choose because
So,
I realize
you
I'm assuming
really
a lot.
Got me.
Then
by
back at the
Van Halen.
hotel, we watched a movie
You've
on
got
TV.
A friend,
Humphrey Bogart is a
Carole
painter who
King.
gets, quote unquote,
the air that I
turned
breathe,
on by death
Hollies.
as he is slowly
Take
positioning
Me
his
to the
first wife
River,
with
Talking
something in her
Heads.
nightly glass of milk.
Which one of those
He is secretly doing a
four
painting of her
was
as the
actually
Black
written by the
Angel of
named
Death.
Person?
Then he marries Barbara Stanwyck, but she finds out everything and is
I
saved
know-
at the end.
I know Carole King.
All a bit more
did not write
complicated than
You've Got
this,
a
but I'm
Friend
getting
because
tired.
the original is in the movie Toy Story.
Then I thumbed through
and
my
I
porn.
don't know.
And now
I
bed.
don't remember the guy's name, but it's like
Sunday,
it's
October
some
15th.
Old dude with a really burly voice, like
Breakfast downstairs in the hotel restaurant found us discussing the
Yeah,
decline and
it
fall of the
totally-
United States.
So I
All
don't
of which
think that's
began
not
with
Carole
Pat
King.
being shocked over
And
eggs
Take Me
costing
to the River
$1.70.
Really has such
when
like
ordered a la carte.
old school vibe to it.
Pat is
and,
right
like,
to be mad, of
It's
course.
like about getting
It
baptized.
is a
right?
ripoff,
Like,
but
take
I'm
me to the river,
surprised
dunk
that she
me in
doesn't
the
expect to
water,
be
like,
ripped off.
Put me
Um,
in the water.
We
put
are
me in
right
the
in the
water.
middle of a national
Yeah.
tourist
Dump me in
attraction.
the water.
At any rate, the restaurant,
off the
obviously
bridge.
rather grand at one time. High ceilings, mirrored
And
columns.
I am a
heavy
fan of
drapes.
the Hollies.
Even
Everyone's
though
heard
now
their big
freshly
hits,
painted,
like, He Ain't
is
Heavy, He's My
obviously on its
Brother,
last
and,
leg.
The bus stop and all that stuff, but I can't think of this song off the top of my head,
But I
I
feel
like the Hollies.
we
so
are
I'm gonna go ahead
very
and
little in
I hope
control
they
of things
did
as they
write this
come and
song,
go.
So this is my answer. The Hollies.
And I don't
did
find
it.
this too sad,
All right.
though
Who's
I
next?
suppose I should. Now off to the National Gallery again.
I
Today is 17th and
I
18th and
guess
19th
I
century,
definitely.
French and British
I
and
remember
American.
You really got me.
A
being
Rayburn
done
painting of a
playing for
colonel
Van
in a
Halen,
red
and
jacket
I agree. I remember
really
a
impresses
real old
me.
school version of "You've Got a
The
Friend
way it is
Long
painted,
Before," Carrie King.
slick and accurate and minimal,
Take Me to the River,
and without the device
had a
of
very
too much
famous
style.
recording for the Talking Heads, so I have to
In
agree
my
with them
head,
too.
this is how I want to
The
paint.
Hollies.
All right.
Toulouse-Lautrec.
Is that everybody's final answer?
Yeah, quick side note, You Really Got Me
Remains,
was the
though I
inspiration
rarely
for
think
the
of him,
Who's first ever single.
one of my
I
favorite
Can't Explain.
drawers.
Pete Townsend heard it, was very impressed with the band that wrote it. They're like
I'm
the
being
Who were
cruised
East
by a
Londoners,
nice-looking
and his band was
guy in a
from West
maroon
London and
sweater.
stuff like that. But he thought,
But it all seems too
really ripping
complicated.
guitar, and he stole the exact same.
I can't resist
structure of the
flirting
song.
back just a little, though.
It is kind of this. It's like a contrafact. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I.
So that was a
stumped all
little
three
from,
this week. I did it. I didn't think this was going
Washington,
to succeed,
D.C.
but it
Journal.
actually did.
1972 by Joe Brainerd,
Usually somebody sees through my
from the
chicanery,
collected
but
writings
this
of Joe
week I
Brainerd, which
managed
was
to
just
stump
published,
You all. I didn't stump you very well on the first one, since in the
strangely
script
enough,
I gave the answer.
to
So
some,
I think everybody knew
by
You Really Got Me was
Library of
originally recorded
America.
by-
You'd
yeah,
be
that
more
was my bad. Remember,
liable
I
to
am on cold
expect to
medicine. You Really Got
perhaps-
Me was, in fact, recorded in 1964
Why would you be
by the
liable to
Kinks.
expect?
So, and that was on the script, so you kind of knew that. But I,
I
think
mean, the
you
works
really
of
did.
Hawthorne
gonna make a
volumes
joke
1 through
about
3
how,
or something like that.
Being on cold medicine didn't get me out
But
of
it's
that
a wonderful
ticket last
book.
week and blah blah blah.
And I
was gonna
love
make a bad police joke about getting busted on the tussin.
I have a new
Well,
bike
you just got a ticket during the course of the show, didn't
It's,
you?
I did. Thanks.
Oh.
Thanks.
called a
Katie.
Next bike.
I didn't realize you couldn't park across the street there. I would.
They're bikes that are
Yeah, I
normally
know.
sold at Walmart
It is.
and
Oh. You know why you
my
didn't
father
know,
bought it at a
Spencer?
yard
Because the
sale
person
for
behind
$80.
You parked in front of somebody who was also.
He
parked
had told me
illegally,
he
so
was
you just
going to
assumed it was
try
okay
to,
park
quote
there.
unquote,
Yeah, and I also
knuckle the guy
illegally
down.
maneuvered to get there. I just kind of
and
turned down the street.
so I
and then
guess
backed around the
$80 is
corner,
all he
so
got.
I guess I deserve it or
Did
whatever.
Down to that is,
karma
and
or some stuff like that or something.
a couple weeks ago,
Hey,
Cold
whatever.
about
medicine. Okay.
now,
Toss
he
him out.
brought it to me.
I'll trade you for my injuries.
Yeah, yeah.
I had
So,
read very
okay, so
bad
that one
reviews
we
of it
established. Take
online,
Me to the River was in fact recorded by.
and I had
you
sent a
know,
Facebook message
Al
to a
Green.
friend
In,
Wait,
asking,
Al Green
should
did
I
it?
get this
yep,
bike?
in 1974.
And he sent me back a message
And I'm
saying,
afraid that the Hollies were not
No,
the original songwriter.
don't
they were
get a
not the
Next
original
bike.
Songwriter of The Air That I Breathe.
there are literally
Albert
piles of
Hammond.
crap.
Albert Hammond. I didn't have time to research what else he had written to maybe try to get some connection here, but
But
this
my
is the
father had bought
songwriter
the bike
who
anyway.
recorded the song in 1972.
And
sounds familiar, like one of those.
So he
names
brought it
that
to me
keeps
the next
popping up
day,
in
and
the
we went to
Goodwill
have
record
lunch
bins, like there's 30 copies of
at
the same
Landmark
record
Restaurant
no one wants
in
not even
Bayview.
for 50 cents.
right, right.
which I wasn't
Not even
very
good enough to
impressed
fill up the
by, but
collection.
Oh, sadly, I've
seemed
seen
to
old True Heart Susie records in the used bins. these
like it a
CD
great
bins,
deal because
so-
it made him
Honestly,
feel
there's,
nostalgic
In
for
my
those kinds of diner
I'm
kind
from
of
like
places.
right next to Sheboygan, and in Sheboygan,
The food
and
reminded
two
me of the
Goodwills
kind of
down
food that
here,
I had
Capitol
at,
and Oakland Street. They have like
Pioneer
50
Plaza
copies
in
of this
Richfield,
Barbra
Wisconsin,
Streisand Greatest Hits
when I was a
Volume 2
fry
record.
cook there.
It's black and white with a sideways silhouette of, of Barbara Babs.
Really
And,
nothing
like,
special.
She's got this big poofy afro type hairdo going on.
Today
and
I
it's
was
just ridiculous.
Riding
It's
my bike
everywhere.
to
We're gonna
my
be sitting there for
psychoanalyst's
centuries.
office, and
So this means that
was
You've
windy,
Got a
so I
Friend
decided
was
to
written by Carole King.
stop
and it
into
was
the
recorded the same
BP
year by
station
James Taylor. It's 1971.
and
She
buy a Journal
was one of
Sentinel
those
to
people
get changed
who
to take the bus
composed, there was a
instead
building,
of
and I
riding
can't
all the
remember
way
name of it
to
in New
my
York. Do you remember the
psychoanalyst
name of
office
that
on
building?
Downer Avenue.
It's a building just chock full of songwriters, and before she recorded her own music, she wrote.
I took
lots
the
and
Journal
lots of hits for
Sentinel to the
people.
counter,
So
and
Carole
I'd also
King
grabbed
actually did write
a
that
copy of
song.
The Onion
Gotcha,
and the Shepherd
guys.
Express.
Yay! Well,
which
Let's
I
get
normally
back
would have
to
picked up
some
by
more
this day
music.
during the week, but
Dan, what do you want to play for us?
I will play a new one.
I
We are
wasn't at
starting
work
to record our
yesterday
second
because
album
I
with possibly
was attending
another
the burial of
band
my
member edition.
grandmother.
So this is one song that I have started. It's called Whirlwind.
I haven't really. I'm not sure if I've had a good cry over it yet or not. There are some instances where I'm not sure they would count because it seems that I was being self-absorbed, perhaps. And so I'm not sure where to aim crying. Does it need to be aimed, or does there need to be an object involved in crying? Does there need to be an object of tears? Which sounds like a really schmaltzy 80s power ballad. That would be by like a Lacanian hard rock band. I had this game that I would play with. I would stay at my grandmother's house a lot for a few days at a time every summer when I was a kid. And, I mean, not a lot. I don't know. Who cares? There was this little rubber yellow Donald Duck. And at around the time every day when my grandfather would get home from working as a meat cutter at the store, my grandmother would put this rubber Donald Duck in the freezer. And so that he would open it when he opened the freezer as he got home and see the yellow rubber Donald Duck. But she would also take me to the next door neighbor's house, and I would swim in her pool, her being Louise Richter. And I would take the rubber Donald Duck with me, and I would play this game where I would throw it and it would drop in the water, and I would swim underwater to try to catch it before it touched the bottom of the pool. And as I would feel that I was getting better at it, I would try to throw it farther away to see how far away I could throw it and still be able to catch it before it hit the bottom of the pool. I'm pretty sure that I was never able to throw it so that I'm pretty sure I was never able to throw it from one side of the pool to the other and still catch it. I'm pretty sure that was too long of a distance. But I also might have thrown it over the edge of the pool and onto the yard a few times as well. And then of course I would have to climb the ladder out of the water and walk down the steps off of the above ground pool and walk around and pick up the rubber Donald Duck, uh, which would have some grass on it, because there were always grass shavings. At least that's how I remember it. Here's more Joe Brainerd. At the Museum of History and Technology, a cold hamburger in the cafeteria. One strange thing, a jukebox machine from the 40s, somehow enormously impressive. As an object, it literally glows with a positive presence, isolated and tough, as it had been chosen as the object most representative of our society, the weight of which carries it very well, carries very well, the weight of which it carries very well. At the Museum of Natural History now, stuffed animals. Wayne is happy. A giant elephant makes me wonder if female elephants have tusks too. Pat and I think no. Ron thinks yes. But none of us, we admit, knows for sure. A little boy is crying because he wants to go see, quote unquote, the bones, which evidently is not in the cards. We try to see the Hope Diamond, but Sunday, too many people. That would be an interesting place to, quote unquote, trip. At the National Gallery again, at the cafeteria again, coffee, a Coke, and a fruit cup, and off to see the rest of what we didn't see this morning. I'm beginning to get a clearer picture of Courbet's contribution, quote unquote, though still, I'm not crazy about him. I expect one day to be, though. 2 big paintings by David, Napoleon in his study, and Ingres, Madame Matassier, leave me surprisingly cold. I like the postcards of them better. When a painting doesn't, quote unquote, need to be as big as it is, it sometimes bothers me. Manet. Manet has always been one of my favorite painters, and still is. Nobody, for me, is more realistic. To pinpoint why is hard, but I think it may have something to do with a basic black and whiteness in his color. It hits home hard. Manet must have had somewhat the same impact on painting as Godard did on film. The seated woman on the left-hand side of Gare Saint-Lazare is not just looking out at me. Her head was down. She looked up. Now she is looking up at me. Or so one feels. As we walked out to the National Gallery, Washington was black against a sky of rich hollow blue. Blue to peach at the bottom. Quite a sight. 6 o'clock or so. Dead tired. All 4 of us. We headed for the car. To go home. Half an hour or so out of Washington, I, for some reason or another, have a vision of those fancy pink cookies. And green cookies, sprinkled with little silver balls. Wayne, in the back seat, is talking about Mexican jumping beans, and I remember how disappointing they always were. Lazy. A few flip-flops, and that was it. Washington. I'd like to say something conclusive about Washington. As conservatively decadent as 1972, or as decadently conservative as 1972, I'm tired, and words lose me. After dinner, in a very noisy and scary cafeteria, back on the road again, we have a heart-to-heart, talk about all the people we know. Conclusion, nobody's perfect, and that's fine and dandy. Oh, and about, quote-unquote, D.C., just in case I'm not the only dumbbell in the world. It means District of Columbia. There's some really great stuff in here. There's some drawings. Joe Brainerd wrote a lot of prose. It seems to be a mode that fit his particular kind of wit quite well. If I were to transition to Zizek from Joe Brainerd, that would be really jarring, right? That would be... And I don't know. I mean, I can't say if one of my aims is to be smooth or anything, or to be exceedingly gentle. There are a lot of contrasting motivations at work here. It's hard to say which one will win out, or if it's a matter of which one will win out. Determining or locating one's will is a matter of stepping by. That's it. The true blasphemy. I really don't like how he begins this with a question. That's very un-Zizek-like of him. Methinks. Pussy Riot members accused of blasphemy and hatred of religion? The answer is easy. The true blasphemy is the state accusation itself, formulating as a crime of religious hatred something which was clearly a political act of protest against the ruling elite. Recall Brecht's old quip from his Beggar's Opera. What is the robbing of a bank compared to the founding of a new bank? In 2008, Wall Street gave us the new version. What is the stealing of a couple of $1,000s for which one goes to prison, compared to financial speculations that deprive tens of millions of their homes and savings, and are then rewarded by state help of sublime grandeur? That's a good phrase. State help of sublime grandeur. There was something kind of sublime about the bailouts of 2008, because sublime in a historical and I think religious sense connotes a kind of terror at the scale of something that seems to be beyond even one's understanding. And it did represent an almost, I want to say, counterintuitive transfer of wealth. Here's more Zizek. Now we get another version from Russia, from the power of the state. What is a modest Pussy Riot obscene provocation in a church compared to the accusation against Pussy Riot? This gigantic obscene provocation, why is that so hard for me to say tonight, of the state apparatus which mocks any notion of decent law and order. Was the act of Pussy Riot cynical? There are two kinds of cynicism. The bitter cynicism of the oppressed, which unmasks the hypocrisy of those in power, and the cynicism of the oppressors themselves, who openly violate their own proclaimed principles. The cynicism of Pussy Riot is of the first kind, while the cynicism of those in power, why not call their authoritarian brutality a prick riot, is of the much more ominous second kind. Back in 1905, Leon Trotsky characterized Tsarist Russia as a vicious combination of the Asian knout and the European stock market. Does this designation not hold more and more also for the Russia of today? Does it not announce the rise of the new phase of capitalism? Capitalism of Asian values, with Asian values, which of course has nothing to do with Asia and everything to do with the anti-democratic tendencies in today's globalism, global capitalism. If we understand cynicism as ruthless pragmatism of power, which secretly laughs at its own principles, then Pussy Riot are anti-cynicism embodied. Their message is, ideas matter. They are conceptual artists in the noblest sense of the word, artists who embody an idea. That is why they wear balaclavas, masks of de-individualization, of liberating anonymity. The message of their balaclavas is that it doesn't matter which of them got arrested. They're not individuals, they're an idea. And this is why they are such a threat. It is easy to imprison individuals, but try to imprison an idea. The panic of those in power, displayed by their ridiculously excessive, brutal reaction, is thus fully justified. The more brutally they act, the more important a symbol Pussy Riot will become. Already now, the result of the oppressive measures is that Pussy Riot are a household name, literally all around the world. It is the sacred duty of all of us to prevent that the courageous individuals who compose Pussy Riot will not pay in their flesh the price for their becoming a global symbol. And that's Zizek. I think this is going to be the last one that I do for a while. So, it's been nice getting to know you. Please take care of your cat.